heard of the advertising agency OBM. It was originally called Ogilvy, Benson and Mather, but Benson left, so it was called O&M. But David Ogilvy is always attributed as the father of Indian advertising, and he talks about a copywriter who used to walk across a park as she used to go to work, and along the corner there used to be a blind beggar, visually impaired beggar, and he had this little sign in front of him, which said, "I'm blind, please help." And all the passers-by just largely ignored him. Nobody cared about whether the man needed money or not, and his begging bowl was very often empty. So she used to keep noticing this, and on one sunny morning when she was crossing, she passed by and then she decides to take his little card. So the earlier thing which said was, "I'm blind, please help." And she crosses across the next morning on a sunny morning and she notices the card and she scribbles something with her marker pen and she just moves on. And the next day when she crosses, she notices that the begging bowl is overflowing with notes and change. And she smiles and she notices the blind beggar is also smiling. What she wrote was, "It's a beautiful day and I can't see it." So this is how you switch the pitch. And she enriched the life of the blind beggar. And that's David Ogilvy for you. So right today, so we say, switch your words, switch your visuals, and switch your world. So you keep doing that. So today we live in a visually mediated society. All of us are continuously on WhatsApp, on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever. But we are communicating through visual. I don't think many people really read that much today. It's more visuals. And the way you frame your visuals is becoming your language, your visual vocabulary, And that is, it makes a kind of a sentence to someone else, and that's how you project yourself as a brand. Each of us are in marketing, each of us is trying to sell ourselves also in some ways, because we try to market ourselves as a brand. I stand for, I'm in advertising, I've studied so and so. We all stand for something. So as a brand, we are there. So this is how I say we look outside the box. We try to think outside the box, and these are different ways of advertising where we try to do things outside the box. This is a Canadian philosopher called Marshall McLuhan, and why I'm talking about him, he says, historians and archaeologists will one day discover that the advertisements of our time are the richest and the most faithful daily reflections any society ever made of its whole range of activities. Because you always look for proof, you always look for artifacts, but advertisements actually depict the changes that our society has gone through. And that's how ancient advertising is. It has started in the Egyptian times. It was also found in Roman sites in the form of steel carvings and tablets. And then advertising took, form of notices as well as announcements in the time of the monarchy. And in the advent of the printing press in the 15th century, advertising slowly found its place from the printed word to illustrations, pictorial depictions to photographs with text, and it evolved itself through each century. And by the end of the 19th century, with the Industrial Revolution, and advertisements for real estates and goods became commonplace. And in the West, what happened was railroads revolutionized the movement of goods, thereby making many consumers aware of products and services to choose from. And this made business enterprises engage in advertising via newspapers and magazines to promote their products. Slogans and trademarks, I'm showing you examples, slogans and trademarks were coined and consumers become aware of the differences in the products. It was not that every product is uniform, that there are differences in the products. And as technology inventions began flooding the market, like cameras, telephones, and automobiles and the like, branding of products became the name of the game. And this is all before World War I, before the radio and television, started even becoming part of the thing. And this was, see the kind of advertisements that are there. You can see that, it talks about sure raising flour sold here. Then it talks about a particular sauce. It talks about a kind of sugar, different kind of advertisement which were there before World War I. And all of you all know who Henry Ford is. And he had this famous quote which he said, "A man who stops advertising to save time is like a man who, stops advertising to save money, is like a man who stops a clock to save time." So it's that important to to spend on advertising for people to get to know about your product. So around the same time in India, what was happening in advertising in India? Who were the advertisers here? It was the large British business houses. I'm talking pre-independence now. And they were, traders of products made in Great Britain. The advertisers it was carried out in newspapers, and it was worded in typeset according to the categories of the products and printed across always the front page. And this was done for the reader's convenience. So it was always done on the front page. And what happened was in the 1940s, advertisers realized that they were in India and they needed a new approach. They could not, have these, they couldn't have Europeans modeling for them. They were in India. They had to include Indians in the advertising. And this was still pre-independence. I'm talking about 1941. They had to switch. Their pitches became different and they realized and they were enriched by their own identity. They decided to feature Indians. The example here I'm showing you is of Unilever. It's the first time that they decided to use for their product Lux, which was called a beauty product, which is a very premium product. So it's the first time they featured an actress called Leela Chitnis. I don't know if all of you know who Leela Chitnis is. So she was the first one. And why Lux? And why an actress? Because the cornerstone, the touchstone of success, even today Lux uses the same campaign. They haven't really changed. They made it contemporary. But if you're a successful actress, you're featured in Lux means you're totally successful. So Leela Chitnis was the one. And it was not the norm to use celebrities at that time, but that was one of the unique things. And now today, almost every celebrity is endorsing every product. It's a kind of a norm today to have celebrity endorsements. It has become like whoever knew that would ever happen. And though advertising had undergone changes from the days of the hawker screaming out and saying, "Vanga, vanga, buy my product," and all that, to all these line drawings, a new Indian creativity was taking place. This was slowly we had acquired independence, and so there was a kind of a thing to instill pride, a sense of Swadeshi, to be proud of you being an Indian. And though English was still the language, for 2 decades we continued to make advertisement in chaste English. But most of the audience was literate. You must remember they were literate. And so it was through the printed word, it was also through the radio, or through the people who went to the movies. You would see advertisements before a film was screened. So those were the kind of audience, not like how it's become today a part of the social fabric. So what happened was the dilemma of Indianizing translated into the creation of an Indian soul. An Indian sensibility that revered human relations, which meant not thinking English thoughts. This was the birth of the vernacular of the Indian soul, where each region began to identify with their own language and how we started promoting regional advertising, starting with Hindi, but it also had Tamil, Malayalam, Telugu. And the process which found its bearings in the texture, the sound, the smells, and the sights of this large, beautiful country, it metamorphosized into a new language of Indian advertising. Another switch was being made, a new chapter was being written. Its initial vocabulary, I'm sure all of you all know of this wonderful song, Mile Suru Mera Tumhara, which came in the Asiad Games in the 80s. And I'll just jog your memory and take you back to nostalgia so you can see a little bit of it and see how different languages were integrated to make a little small portion of this song. This is the great Bhimsen Joshi. Why is volume not coming?
Put the mic. No sound is coming.
Sorry.
Just time maximum volume and see.
No, it is in full volume.
You put the song on the YouTube, then you have play it from your mobile phone. Play it from your mobile phone.
But connect to speaker, right?
We had this one.
Sorry for these hiccups.
We had this song done for our.
सुर मेरा तुम्हारा तो सुर बने हमारा
मुंहिंजो सुर तुंहिंजे सां प्यारा दिले गले गीत असांजो मधुर तरानो पड़े लंबी
So this is basically why I showed you this as an example. Yes. This is the problem with our field. We always have these technical glitches. So thanks for bearing with it. The reason I was trying to show you the 80s was a kind of a birth of this kind of new vernacular advertising. So this song kind of set that vocabulary. So you saw multiple languages which were shown. You're having Hindi, Kashmiri, you have Punjabi, you had different languages which were coming up. So similarly, that 80s and 90s, we call it a collective nostalgia ads. Everybody remembers that wonderful commercial of Hamara Bajaj, which was at that period. And then you had that Gale mein Keech Keech Gale mein Vicks ki Goli Lo. Everybody knows that period. Then Sottu Neelam Doi, the girl Sottu Neelam Doi. Everybody knows that. Then we had that the light, which was Bajaj, Jab main chota ladka tha, badi shararat. So we had all these kind of different songs. You had Lalita ji, you had Ulli Vimal. Also, everyone looks at 80s and 90s as a collective nostalgia campaign, which is why it comes back to the Canadian philosopher which says faithful daily reflections of the activities that people lived through. So you remember, when you go and Google, you say advertising of that period, always 80s and 90s pops up. Because everyone felt Indian advertising came of age that time, and now it's evolving in a different way with internet and all that stuff. So I'm coming to the story of a brand now. We talk about what does a brand stand for, the core identity. We have the objective, advertising, marketing, identity, and a product. So when one advertises for a brand, what is a brand? A brand is part of a company. And what does a company look at? A company looks at hard facts. It looks at its production, it looks at its distribution, its numbers, its sales, etc., etc. But what is a brand? A brand is like a personality. It's like you and me. It's fluid with traits. Is it exciting? Is it trendy? Is it what the company stands for? Does it fulfill the needs and aspirations of its consumers? And does it stand for what you believe in? Does it culturally connect? So the entire process of branding is a dynamic surface, and the magic in communication is finding the balance. An extraordinary brand is something that is constantly evolving, that has its ear to the ground, to the ever-changing trends of the environment, and it manages to communicate the same. Communicating a brand follows the same principles of storytelling. It has a structure, and it has to captivate the attention and fully immerse the audience into the story, leaving a long-lasting impression, which is what it's very important to tell very succinctly what your brand stands for. And these stories can be told in an end number of ways, as you all have yourselves seen how many different brand stories can be told. You can either do conventional, non-conventional, as well as in-person brand experiences. Uh, a brand that I have closely worked with is Arogya, as Usha has also mentioned, HAP, which is a very well-known company which is headquartered in Madras. It is the largest private dairy which is set, it's in the country, and it gets its milk from over 4 lakh farmers. Arogya is a company which gets its milk from 4 lakh farmers, which are situated over 13,000 villages across many states now. It's Karnataka, it's Andhra, it's Telangana, it's Maharashtra, it is Tamil Nadu, and now they're slowly going to acquire even in Orissa. So the company is growing across like that. And the interesting thing about the company is they have a very good relationship with the farmer. There are no middlemen between the company and the farmer. The farmer is directly connected with the company, and as soon as the farmer hands over the milk, a credit goes straight through the mobile phone. So even in demonetization time in 2014, when most farmers were in a very sad state, none of the farmers who were attached to Arogya were affected because the money went straight to their account and they were safe. So they felt very secure being with this company, and they continue to maintain very long-term and long-standing relationships with their farmer. And this company also exports their dairy ingredients to over 38 countries. And you must remember today the company is over 8,000 crores. And this company started with a mere 13,000 rupees in 1970. So the company has grown. It's over 50 years old, this particular company. I have been associated with the Arogya brand, which was established in 1995. My company started in 1996. So I kind of followed them. And I did one of their ads in 1996, which was a comparative ad, which was, like how Coke and Pepsi used to constantly do comparative advertising. We began our advertising like that. We started with a comparative ad, and then suddenly the company felt, no, this is not what we stand for. We don't want to make some other brand look smaller than us. That's not our thing. So they made a switch. So we made a different kind of a concept where we projected the milk as a wholesome product. We brought in, families and relationships being built and enriched by this whole association of milk. So we used like a grandmother, granddaughter, we used siblings, we used a newly married couple, we used Griha Pravesh, we made many different sequences. We just said, Nalam Anbudan, that is goodness with love, was the campaign we created. I will just show you an example of that. So this is what we started with, Anbendral, Arogya, Nalam, Anbudan. Then what happened was they realized that their long-standing relationships with their farmers were really solid. So this was the 2000s when we did this film, and it was not just popular faces. Earlier, advertising was all about getting good-looking faces, conventionally good-looking faces. Everyone had to look a certain way when you take them for modeling for advertisement. But slowly in the 2000s, a shift was beginning to happen. People next to faces were also accepted. A slice of realism, slice of real life commercials. You could move to getting, if I like somebody here, if they can perform, if they're able to act, you put them in front of the camera, you make your commercial. If you have a good story to tell. And we decided that instead of only showing the consumers who are drinking the milk, let's show the farmers who are providing the milk. So we decided to go behind the curtain and pull out the people who actually are the ones slogging and toiling and getting the milk for you. So we went into a new style of filmmaking called documercials, which is taking the real life stories of dairy farmers. So this was in 2011. So I'm talking about how in 2000s we did this Nalam Anbudan, and then we took the campaign further where we said Nalam Anbudan Namadu Gramangal irundu, from the villages. we started featuring stories, and we went there. I remember when my client told me, Latha, go shoot. And I said, you please understand, I'm going to shoot a farmer, and I don't know how he's going to act. He's a non-actor. He's never come in front of the camera before. I will just do a test video for you. So I went and I took one of the farmers, he was in Bello. I took my video cam and I shot the farmer. I said, speak. He spoke what he does from morning to evening. I just recorded him and I came back and showed it to my client, Mr. Satyan, who's now the vice chairman. And he said, yeah, Latha, we'll air this ad. I said, sure. So he had the faith that the campaign is going to work. So it's important that people have faith in what you're creating. Otherwise, it doesn't support what you're trying to do. So we switched our campaign and we made a new pitch and we started featuring real life stories of dairy farmers. We started with Tamil Nadu, and the whole style was, Tamil Nadu is such a fertile state. I traveled almost, I just traveled the length and breadth of Tamil Nadu. We saw the fertile state, education, exactly the time when the milk is being collected, children are going to school. And it was a very prosperous kind of a Tamil Nadu that we were showing. And we started with Tamil Nadu and then we moved to Telangana, we moved to Andhra Pradesh, we moved to Maharashtra. I will show you 2 commercials just to show you the different types of farmers that I met. This second farmer that I'm going to show you is a man called Yadagiri, who's a Telugu guy. He was a volleyball player. He worked for the army. But because his father is very connected to the bhumi, he said, this is what we've inherited. We don't sell it. We have to cultivate it and we have to have the dairy farm running. This boy quit his army life and came back and joined his father in dairy farming. So these are the kind of stories we're telling. The other person I'm talking about is a guy called Mahesh, who's from Maharashtra, a true blue Maratha, who had a child romance, and he and his wife. So I tried to capture, so each farm that you go to and you try and capture the nuances of those people. So Yadagiri, you'll understand when you see the commercial, and Mahesh and his wife, you'll see the romance that they have with their 3 children. So these are all real families. Nothing is created. We've gone into their farm, into their homes, and we've captured this. So the campaign progressed from goodness with love to goodness with love from the villages. I'll show you the 2 commercials.
మా కొడుకు మాతో పాటు పనిచేయడం మాకు ఆనందం ఉంది. లేకపోతే ఈ భూమి తరతరాల భూమి మాకు దక్కింది కాదు.
ఈ డైరీ పెట్టడానికి ముందు రన్నింగ్ గానీ వాలీబాల్ గానీ పోయేవాడిని. అదే టైం ని ఇక్కడ యూజ్ చేసుకుంటున్నాను. ఆవులు కడగడం గానీ, షెడ్ క్లీన్ చేయడం గానీ, గడ్డి తీయడం గానీ, టోటల్ బాడీ వర్క్.
సత్పామను ఆడేళ్ళం కోసం మా కొడుకు ఎత్తుకపోతాడు. మిషన్ వాడతాం. దాంతో పాటు 3 కిలో దానా, మక్క పిండి, పత్తి కలి 3 కలిపి పెడతాం. మాకు ఆనందం అంటే ఆవులు మా కుటుంబం. మా ఫామ్ లో పెండ తీయడం, నీళ్లు వేయడం, కడగడం.
ఆరోగ్య మిల్క్.
जशी आम्ही आमच्या मुलांच्या स्वच्छतेची काळजी घेतो, तशी आमच्या जनावरांच्या स्वच्छतेची काळजी आम्ही नेहमी घेतो.
मी माझ्या गायीची स्वतः काळजी घेतो आणि माझ्या नाही लक्षात आलं तर मी डॉक्टरला बोलवतो.
हे आमच्या चिमणीला जन्मलेले नवीन वासरू.
5 गायीपासून 15-20 कालवडी आमच्या घरच्याच गायी तयार झाल्यात.
मला मोकळी हवा ही खूप आवडते. मला माझ्या कुटुंबाबरोबर राहायला खूप आवडतं. मला ह्याच्या व्यतिरिक्त आणखीन काय हवं?
गुणयुक्त प्रेममय आमच्या गावाकडून आरोग्य दूध.
The reason the success of these campaigns kind of worked out because people realized that farmers had lives and dreams just like their own. So they could identify and understand the farmers. And a lot of people, came and told me that it was such an interesting campaign because we literally went around meeting all these farmers, researching them, talking to them, and the farmers that finally featured were people who were relaxed in front of the camera. Finally, they have to be relaxed. They can't, if they get tense up. So I'm talking to them and we are getting the stories out of them. These are stories that they have told. So, which is why I call them documercials. So Arogya continues to tell these stories about its farmers and cattle that provide the consumers milk. It utilized a tried and tested campaign, and we're tweaking it for today's audience with more emotion and aesthetic. And it's very important to understand that we don't necessarily have to completely change the personality of the brand for this generation. Emotions and ideas are universal, and find what works for your brand and just make it in the simplest way possible. Now let's take a step back. Today, whom are we addressing? Who's the audience today? It's the millennial generation. Everybody knows who the millennial is, born between 1980 to 2000. These millennials like to know what the campaign is. Is it connected to them? Can they co-create it with the client? They're into, that's the language they speak. That's why the internet has helped advertising. Like you see ad campaigns for Tanishq, you see ad campaigns for Nike. Consumers are also involved, and it's also based on what their expectations are. You can't, if they don't believe in what your company stands for, they won't align with the brand. If they feel that you're not doing things which are ethical or against the environment, they won't align with the brand. They all look at reviews now before they buy a product. That they're that much kind of, they're so specific about what they want. So in today's generation, like we all know that today's generation, we all have seen how gender stereotypes have broken. Women are not sari clad like they are. They're all working. Men are fitter than before. Men can cook. Men are bothered about how they look. Men are letting their emotions down. They're crying sometimes. We see men crying, which is a great thing. We see women not crying, which is also a good thing. So we see older men getting fitter, and it's changed. How consumers are responding to advertising as well. You have the internet, so it's very important to have very engaging storytelling to hold your audience together with you. There's another brand story, which is why I'm showing you the two sides of a millennial dream. There is another particular brand that I work for called KP Nambudris. I don't know if you'll have heard of the brand. It's a very well-known toothpaste brand. And that brand has been around from 1925. It's a traditional brand. It belongs to a family of Nambudris. Fourth generation right now, I think, the person who's dealing with it. So how do you evolve and change with the century? It started with tooth powder, then they used the same formula and made this toothpaste. And how do you make it relevant today? So still you have to integrate. So we made two commercials where we made it more contemporary and we changed the pitch a bit, and we all stand enrich. We still brought in an element of nostalgia. The boy is in the gym working out. He's a Navy officer. So this is the first ad which we made in Kerala, because Kerala, everybody knows the brand is around from 1925. So you see how we made it for Kerala, and then I'll show you how we made it for Tamil Nadu.
నేను ఊరు చూసుకోవాలి వచ్చింది ఇదా వచ్చాను
കുരുമുളക് നെല്ലിക്ക ഇഞ്ചി ഗ്രാമ്പു തുടങ്ങിയ ചേരുവകൾ അടങ്ങിയ KP Nambudris ഹെർബൽ ടൂത്ത്പേസ്റ്റ് നമ്മുടെ പല്ലുകൾക്കും മോണകൾക്കും സമ്പൂർണ്ണ പരിചരണം നൽകുന്നു. തലമുറകളുടെ തിളങ്ങുന്ന ചിരിയുടെ രഹസ്യം KP Nambudris ഹെർബൽ ടൂത്ത്പേസ്റ്റ്.
So it's saying the shining smiles of generations, that the paste has been something that you've inherited from generation to generation. But in Tamil Nadu, nobody knows that the brand has been around from 1925. It's only come into Tamil Nadu for 10 years. So we had to use a different campaign, and we used a TV celebrity, a girl who's acted in a series called Bharati Kannamma. She's one actress. So we used her, and we made it a bit comic. So it's like about the first night. And so this is the commercial we made.
ഇതിലിருந்து തപ്പിക്ക ചുക്ക നെല്ലിക്കൈ ഗ്രാമം കുരുമുളക് போன்ற உருளைகள் அடங்கிய KP Nambudris ஹெர்பல் டூத்பேஸ்ட் நமது மக்களுக்கும் எங்களுக்கும் முழுமையான கவனிப்பை தருகின்றது.
So it's a different kind of pitch for Tamil Nadu. So you have to understand the market you're talking to whenever you make a particular commercial. So so as I've shown you from these case studies, to build a brand or yourself, apart from an understanding of your skill set, cultural context, and the ability to tell a story, your communication must touch the audience. What you put out there must be the same communication that the audience also replays in their subconscious. And that's what makes a great brand or personality. I would like to talk about the Hudson brand that I work with. It is about their Hudson curd. And we had 2 campaigns shot, and I work with children and cows for that. It's not easy working with 2, how do I say, variables like children and cows, but we have tried. So the first campaign, we had a child following the cow and going into a world of purity. And in the second campaign, the child is like a pied piper and the cows follow the child and she takes purity home. The same idea, it's purity, green grass, beautiful skies. But you see how the commercial, and the most important thing is we have this very memorable tune and everybody connects to the tune, and even now, everybody, I mean, I'm known a lot for this commercial because of the tune and the way we've shot it. So this is the Hudson commercial.
Hudson, cow's milk, so good. Hudson girl.
It was really nice. Very nice.
So these were, the challenge of getting all those cows to come in one line was very, very tough for me. I was literally running. I became a cowherd all the time doing all that. But they're very gentle cows. They're very friendly. They don't hurt you at all. And we don't have trained cows and all that. Like you go to a zoo and you can't get. Everybody told me you should have it. I said it's impossible. You have to kind of bring the cow, and if the farmer who owns the cow has control over the cow, it really helps you. So that's how we created this campaign. The child also has to listen to you. She should not be scared of the cow. So we had an orientation of the child with the cow for one day. I made her walk with the cow and all that, so she kind of was safe. So that's what I was trying to say, creating meaningful content and building strong community connections. That's what is important about advertising. And they favor, today's consumers favor honesty, they favor knowledge and engagement and conversation. And they like value-based concepts rather than just, announcing things. So advertising is constantly evolving, like I said. And you have to work alongside with the consumers to create meaningful campaigns and also participate in social change and create content that shows a strong sense of community, which is today's world. The theme of thinking defining and creating is all about innovation, and a brand that sets out to make a meaning in the world eventually becomes profitable, like what HAP is, with the added effect of changing the world, standing by its sign off, and it's not merely defined by what it does, but by the benefits it provides. And to be someone who understands the consumer's needs and expectations, positioning and branding eventually comes down to what the consumer decides. Uniqueness and value should be what the product stands for, what you stand for, and then how you pitch it and how you keep switching it depending on how the trends are changing, and how you enrich the world not just of one party but of the client, of the brand, of the consumer, of the creative party, the ad filmmaker, of which in this case is me. Thank you for having me.
Any question or answers? Any questions? Any questions? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, Karthik. Consumers will take you to court. They have the Consumers Action Forum, the group. They pull you up if you can't make tall claims. And they also have bodies which kind of, veto if you make a claim like that. If you say that your toothpaste makes your teeth whiter, no, they don't allow you to make claims like that. It protects your gums, you can say things like that, but you can't make other tall claims. They always allege that most deals are supported by advertising. Sponsors are most of your clients, and they all thrive in advertising. Actually,
Can
Yeah.
I twist that question a bit more?
yeah,
It's not about lying per se, but there's a credibility issue with advertising when they oversell, overcook a product, overcook a pitch, and people get disappointed very easily when they don't get
I would agree with that. Possibly decades earlier, Mr. Keshav, but today's day and age, you can't really do that. So if a brand is making a tall claim, people look at the review of your product. See, now nobody purchases just like that. You will see, the reflection comes in the sales. So unless the product is good and it's able to deliver, you can con people some of the time. No, we have that same famous proverb, right? You can fool some of the people all of the time, and some people some of the time, but not all people all of the time. So that's what advertising is too.
So according to you, what is the best ad, not made by you, of course? Which one stays in your mind as the best in terms of a pitch?
There are so many. I like all the Nike commercials. They are brilliant because they talk about different periods. Like now body shaming is a big thing. There is a brilliant advertisement where they had a man who was 100 kilos being forced to run. They made him run. And they took a commercial like that. So they do these, now those kind of commercials are what have impact. Because people like to see what is happening to a real person. You're having a problem and you're willing to come in front of the camera and live that life, then they are convinced, and the product is given to you, and you're allowed to try it. And if that works, then great. So Nike's set of campaigns are brilliant. If you watch all of Nike's campaigns, they're very motivating. They're very and just do it. What is their line? Just do it. So it's a very inspirational kind of thing. Even Tanishq is trying to break some barriers. They try to talk about relationships. They try to talk about second marriages. They try to talk about divorce. They're trying to bring about social change, and they try to reflect those trends into the commercial. And the latest campaign is also quite impactful. Where a girl, they use a celebrity to endorse. She just starts it off. But she tells the girl, you're getting married and you have to leave all this which is familiar to you, and go into a new place. Will that guy do that for you? Will your spouse do that? And the whole thing is a twist in that, where the guy is also willing to come to your house. So today's commercials are like that. They're reflecting what, social
What do you
change.
think of the Amul ads?
Amul ads are always warm and fuzzy. They all have very good soundtracks and,
fog ads that
Fog.
it's horrible. And they're trying to sell that
That's
fog
sex
is
appeal.
such a
You need some. That's basically, it's talking about a fragrance which lasts, and They're very primal, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
And what do you think about
No guess.
where the promoter is, like Latha Jewelry, the
Yeah.
promoter himself comes for the ad.
I know because a lot of them want to become the face of the brand.
Yeah, like
They-
Sarvana stores.
He became an actor also. Haji Masala also did that.
And
Yeah.
also about Sensodyne ad where the consumer is trying to show the product and experience of So I mean it doesn't appeal to me those kind of ads, but what do you think?
So Sensodyne is trying to be real, like when you have that pain, Sensodyne is also, it has that benefit. So which is why they're trying to tell you real life situations of when it kind of hurts you, so they're making it very real.
But very real, but then it's not real, so it kind of doesn't appeal that much.
No, Lux was
Yeah, Lux is okay because you
Lux
put
is
a
right,
right.
right?
Bhavesh has one
Bhavesh
question.
has a question.
Yeah. See, many times you spend a lot of time building a brand.
Yeah.
After it is done, there are some controversies that pull it down. Something like Fair and Lovely, it's been over years. They're forced to
Fair
change.
and Lovely
How
because
do you
see
face
the
How do you
reason being
face it?
The millennials and
the
all that.
millennials don't like it. They
Keep
think
it back,
they
no, no,
change this.
I'm not seeing from the customer side. I'm seeing from your side. How do you face it when your brand is like, it's pulled down? Like, you're forced to change.
You have to, because see, that was not a good pitch. Everyone kept questioning it. How can you show one person fair and then dark, and dark and then becoming fair, and then only then the guy looks at her.
See,
That was
is
quite.
one brand.
Yeah.
There are many other brands where they were like, probably they've been forced to change on to the
Like,
name.
I think what you're talking about is an advertisement of Amir Khan coming from Amazon, and then about the anabolics which are there, and then the whole advertisement was pulled down. I think that's
If it
something
doesn't
which you're
work,
talking
the brand, the client has to pull it down. It doesn't work for them. Then others they'll get flack now. You will face a lot of.
What I'm telling is,
Fair
from
and
ad maker's point of view, how do you face it?
No, because see, a lot of us were not in agreement with that concept itself. Because it's something you're
How do they
perpetuating.
make it? See, when they were making
See, basically it was a kind of a sunscreen, but they glamorized it by saying that it has a protection element and all. It's basically a kind of a sunscreen. And in the South, when they did a study, people tended to use talcum powder. They all wanted to be fairer. That is the story that they did. You do research studies, right? It all comes out of insights. You make pitches only based on insights that you get from research studies. So all in the South, people used to. I'm sure all of you all know. We also sometimes used to put talcum powder and go to school and all that, like a sunscreen to protect
We
your
will take two
skin.
more questions.
Are people using user-generated content for their ads these days?
Some of them who don't have a team to develop a campaign, then they do that AI generated. They do make.
User-generated.
Yeah, they do make that. Depending on if they don't have and if they don't want to invest too much, they may try that. And it's easy to model things now in everything. So it's possible.
One more question?
Last question.
Yeah, I'm the district public image chairman.
Uh.
And we've been working on the brand of Rotary and the wheel.
You'll have to say. No, what I meant is you'll stand very upright, you're very conscientious, you'll have a very positive approach, and you'll want to enrich people's lives. You always, even if from my experiences, I've met a lot of Rotarians, and my brother's also a Rotarian. So, and I discovered my uncle was a Rotarian. I didn't know that, so I discovered. But all have this, they want to make the world a better place. So that look comes from the face of the Rotarian. So I think that's, yeah.
What's your take on surrogate ads?
Surrogate ads?
Yeah, like all these Kingfisher,
Pan masala.
Pan masala,
Beer
accelerating
brands.
this,
They have a lot of money.
do you have any suggestions for stopping them?
The government should stop them.
No, as an ad maker,
We really don't endorse them. We really don't make them. So, it is not really
Biggest
good.
taxes are coming from those industries.
Yeah, huge taxes, but it's bad for health, especially pan. But what do you do? Yeah. I think you should just use it in moderation.
Yeah, I think we'll close with that. That would be the last question. Thanks a lot, Ms. Latha, for the wonderful insight on advertising. I remember working with Hatsup. have supplied to the sniping system to all their factories. And the one which is in Zahirabad is supposed to be the largest ice cream making factory in all India. That belongs to Hudson.
Yeah, they've had the chocolates now there. They're also making chocolates now.
Yeah, getting into almost everything.
Everything.
Thank you. Over to the president. Sudhakar sir, we just requested you come please, sir.
Yeah.
A small moment to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
How it is required to be taken care of.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You can just take a seat. At this point of time, I request Rotary Shankar to please come forward and introduce Rotarian Rajeshwari from Milavati.